Welcome everybody to MLL Talk. This is Andrew Goldberg, host. Into a computer without being live. Welcome to our first edition of our little Google Hangout thing here we have going. We hope you enjoy. Joe joins us. Joe Keegan joins us. He is the lead MLL columnist for InLacrosseWeTrust.com. He has his own little corner. Joe, I'm jealous of your corner. How did you get it? What did you have to tell Marissa to get your own corner?
I have no idea. I don't know. I can't tell you.
And of course, our other esteemed panelist is Alex Urquhart, and I totally just screwed your name up. I'm sorry. He's from Minnesota. He covers the Minnesota Swarm from the NLL and also the MCLA and anything that goes on with that college lacrosse scene. Alex, how are you doing there in Minnesota?
Yeah, you know, it's a little chilly. We're getting bogged down in some snow right now, but making it through.
Making it through. Hey, man, some of the snow is it's melting here. I'm loving it. It's like 46 degrees. It's like a heat wave. There's puddles everywhere. I don't know how it is in Minnesota, but I'm sure it still sucks.
Oh, you're making me extremely jealous. Will you switch with me, please?
No, you stay there. I'll stay here.
That hurts a little bit. That hurts a little bit.
Joe, I know it's a heat wave by you. I think you said you were going out in shorts and flip-flops.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's supposed to be mid-40s, maybe even 50 tomorrow, so doing well up here in Mass.
Yeah, break out that tanning oil, baby. Break it out. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we're glad to have you on our first edition of MLL Talk. A lot of big news in Major League Lacrosse, the first of which that we'll get to here on MLL Talk is, of course, the STX merger and the LXM Pro merger. Guys, it's huge for the game. It's good for the growth of the game. STX becoming another big sponsor, another big lacrosse sponsor, obviously, as they have been for the last, for as long as I can remember when I started playing lacrosse. Alex, what does the STX signing mean, and what does the LXM Pro merger mean in terms of the growth of the game for lacrosse? And, same thing for sponsors and players as well.
Well, start with the STX. A lot of it's just nice seeing that Warrior kind of loosen the reins a little bit here, since they were, they funded the MLL for the first, however long. And it's, nice to see that STX is getting in here, being that they sponsor, Nike STX sponsors how many teams at the college level. And, when you think about it, lacrosse is probably the only sport that I can think of, at least, that only tells teams they can only use this brand of stuff or that brand of stuff. So it's nice to finally see STX kind of muscle its way in there. With the LXM, it's going to be great to see the players that were kind of, tabooed for the MLL diehards. We get to see the guys like, Bradman, Harrison, the Brattons, Johnny Rodriguez, and those guys who have immense talent that just don't play in the MLL. So overall, I think it's good. The only thing that I think is a downside of it, LXM isn't bringing in 2 new teams. So it's more or less we're sticking at 8 teams and just bumping up the number of guys already in the player pools. So
yeah, you're kind of hitting on everything. Joe, what do you think of the whole entire thing? Alex, pressed on a couple big issues. Now we see more players coming in like Brad and everybody. What did you think of the whole move? Personally, I didn't even know that STX wasn't even giving anything, product-wise or even player-wise to the MLL.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely have to give Warrior a lot of credit because they, I mean, took what you can assume to be a short-term loss, letting SCX in the market there for professional lacrosse, and I think it will pay out for them because now MLL has, like Alex said, players like Bradman, the Brattons, Kyle Harrison, big faces, and big names, some flashy players, and it's going to help them grow and test markets out with the tour now that they can send guys like Paul Rabel and some of the better MLL guys, send them out to California, Dallas, Minnesota, wherever the LXM Tour events are going to go, you know, and they can see which cities are ready for expansion because I think that's the next step with, like Alex said, adding so many people to the player pool. Expansion is inevitable. It's coming soon.
Yeah, so let's hit on that topic. We were talking about it when we were just talking in the computer to each other and no one was watching. Um, we have all these places that could do it. I mean, the MLL tried to do it. I think it was about 4 years ago. They had the LA Riptide. They had the San Francisco Dragons. They had I think it was the Chicago Machine. Now it's the Ohio Machine. And then the Denver Outlaws also. Denver's the only. Do you think that, I mean, Joe, we'll go with you here first. Do you think that there needs to be a dilution of the talent pool to expand with more teams? Because all these teams just look so good right now. There are so many talented players.
Yeah, on paper, I mean, very few teams have holes on their rosters. So that's great for the sport. It's going to be a really competitive year. Every game this summer should be good. And luckily, a lot of them are on TV, so we'll get to see them and hopefully grow the game. But, yeah, I think expansion is coming. A lot of people are talking about Atlanta. I know they have championship weekend, but to be honest, they have some of the worst fans in sports. Maybe not the worst. That might go to Miami, but Atlanta is pretty bad. They lost the Thrashers, and rightfully so. I'm not sure that MLL needs to move to Atlanta as their 9th team. There are so many better markets. I'd say, like we were saying, the LA Riptide, bring them back. And as a 10th team to even it out, I'm going out on a limb. It's a little crazy. I said it a couple weeks ago in my column. Alex is going to roll his eyes. He wishes I was picking Minnesota, but I'm saying add the Iroquois national team to MLL. Let the Thompsons play together, Cody Jamieson, Sid Smith, and if they need a couple guys, they can let guys like John Galloway, Joel White, former SU teammates, let them be honorary Iroquois and let them play for pride. They'll have a pretty good fan section, I bet.
Yeah, Alex, before you talk about the Iroquois and rebuttal here, I mean, just to go off Joe's point is, I mean, isn't when you try to grow the sport, don't you want to hit all the major markets? I mean, they've hit most of the major markets. You've got New York. You're kind of expanding into Florida, so that kind of takes care of Miami. Obviously, all the major markets are out east. So you mentioned LA. I mean, posing this question to you, Alex, would Iroquois really make sense? Because that would be kind of like a small market, like a Buffalo area type place. And, I mean, the Buffalo Bills, let's just take, for instance, they're a team that's looking for a new stadium now. John Bon Jovi was probably going to buy the team. I mean, and they might move to L.A. if, the NFL decides to make an L.A. team. So is the Iroquois national team even a good idea, technically, from a growth standpoint?
From a growth standpoint and from a business standpoint, I don't think that the team would be able to last very long. Just because, I mean, you only get so many players. I mean, they're amazing players that come out of the nation. So it could work for a little while, But as the league itself with it, I don't know if it would be able to work too well. I'd love to see. It would be great to see the Thompsons just
Can
keep
I
playing after college. I mean, it would be amazing to see what they could do against some of these pro guys. I mean, and we're going to get a little bit of that this summer with the FIL World Championships, but I just don't think that they can last too long in the league as it sits right now.
can I give a rebuttal to the rebuttal?
Go for the judge honors your rebuttal.
All right. Andrew, you're saying that they would be like the Buffalo Bills who are looking for a new stadium? Major League Lacrosse already has their Buffalo Bills. They're called the Rochester Rattlers. They got less than 2,000 fans per team this year. Okay? If you're worried about the Iroquois Nationals not putting fans in the stands, I think people will drive an hour in every direction to come see the Thompsons play together. So don't worry about the fans, all right?
Yeah, but they also have the Hamilton Nationals.
Well, the Hamilton
Nationals are in Florida.
Yeah, but they're going to go back next year.
I don't think that after this year they will go back. I think the league will renege it and say, you know what, we did so well down here, we're going to leave them there, and Hamilton could be another. I mean, that could be an expansion place later on. But I mean, the Iroquois being kind of the Buffalo or the Rochester Rattlers, it would almost make more sense to just move Rochester Rattlers a little ways down and be on the res. I mean, that's kind of what you'd almost want to do because the Rattlers aren't making any money as it is.
Joe, what do you think about that? I mean, I kind of agree. Maybe just move the Rattlers to the Iroquois Nation, rename them, and then go west, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I have no problem with the Rattlers. They've been moved around enough, you know. They were gone, and then the machine turns into the Rattlers, and then they're back. And I mean, if we're not going with the Iroquois, I'm not going to cry about it. I wouldn't mind seeing LA Riptide and San Francisco Dragons coming back.
I agree wholeheartedly.
So, I mean, we're talking about all these. Yeah, go, Alex.
I mean, I agree wholeheartedly with bringing back at least LA. I mean, with bringing in the merger from the LXM, you've got the guys that have been spending most of their time in LA, in Nevada, in the area, and stuff, and I mean, they'll be able to draw a ton of people to those games. And I mean, once you do that, you start thinking, all right, can the MLL possibly go to, a conference system? And that just blows everything up for the MLL. I mean, that's expansion 101. I mean, you start polarizing it, making an East versus West kind of thing, and expansion happens on its own for the most part that way.
Yeah, I mean, one question I guess I have about that is, yeah, we want to go to the West and we want to make it easier for Denver, because if you think about it, obviously Denver is traveling, a couple thousand miles to every team on the East. They're the only quote-unquote West Coast team. But also, in terms of making a conference, I feel like the MLL has it kind of correct right now. When you see it in the NFL and the NBA, especially this year, right? The West and the East in the NBA is just terrible. West is awesome, East sucks. A lot of people have said, why don't we just eliminate conferences and divisions, take the best 16 teams? I mean, granted, the MLL right now only has 8 teams, so all they can do is take the top 4 teams. If they expand, I think they should keep that kind of playoff system together. Final 4, like the NCAA tournament. What do you think about that, Joe?
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I mean, maybe when MLL reaches 30 teams, you can go East and West. But when you're 12, 16 teams, you just want to take the best 4, take the best 6, best 8, however many you take for the playoffs. Just take the best. Don't split them up. You wouldn't split up a 12-team fantasy football league into divisions, because then somebody's going to get screwed, you could be the third best team in the league and not make it because the other division is just garbage, you know?
That's that's how it goes, though. I mean, you gotta beat the teams you have to beat at that point. I mean, I agree that at the moment they have it how it is. I mean, it works for them, and that's how it needs to stay for now. But you get into even a say a 14 team league or 16, you're moving into an area where I mean, teams aren't going to play each other. You're either going to have to make the season longer, or you're going to have to split it up somehow where you're going to be able to get the best markets playing each other the most often.
Yeah, and I think that's I mean, outside of the growth of the game in terms of into cities, Philly or New Jersey or LA or wherever, I think that's the greatest challenge. But we had mentioned that all these LXM Pro players are coming in, right, guys? So, I mean, the biggest news from this past week was that Peter Baum officially signed his contract with the Ohio Machine. He was picked last year as the #1 pick by the Ohio Machine. He didn't play, though, opted for the LXM Pro Tour. So, Alex, what do you think about Ohio now? Because now they've become kind of an interesting team. With the LXM Pro players coming in, it's now a new player pool that all the teams have to add more talent to their rosters. So Ohio now gets Peter Baum, a great player, and they also have the ability to maybe get Sam Bradman. So now you're looking at an offensive midfield that was terrible last year, and now they got 3 guys who are amazing, potentially. I mean, what do you think about the Ohio Machine this year, especially Peter Baum coming in?
It makes it so that Ohio can come from, bottom of the barrel and possibly be in contention for making the championship weekend. I mean, they could end up looking like Charlotte did, where they were towards the bottom of the bucket, and then all of a sudden, in 1 year they turned things around, and now they're probably one of the best teams in the league. Now, I mean, they are all Loyola guys at Charlotte, but it works. So, I mean, it's interesting to see what could happen. I think with Schuss, Baum, possibly Bradman, all these guys that they've got. I mean, it could get interesting this year. I mean, there's not too many teams that look like they're going to struggle this year. I mean, it's going to be a big year for the MLL.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes this year pretty important and something that could really spurn some of this growth that we're talking about. Joe, I know, you're Keegan's Corner that we're all jealous of. You were doing kind of like an MLL value type thing, like Richard Simmons. I mean, not Richard. Bill Simmons does. I love Bill Simmons. Book stuff, and I like you're doing with the column there. Where would you put Peter Baum? I don't know if I want to do a spoiler alert here, but where would you put Peter Baum on your rankings, and maybe even Sam Bradman or some of these other guys coming in, and how that fits into the Ohio Machine?
That's not cool, man. That's a huge spoiler. I know where I have him, but I can't say.
Okay.
I can say both Baum and Bradman are on there. Right now I've only done 50 through 41, so they're both in the top 40. And I can tell you this. I can tell you that Bradman is higher than Baum.
Ooh.
Interesting.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know how you feel about that, but seeing Bradman play live, I saw him play in the D3 championships at Gillette his senior year. I think he had 6 goals in that game. 6 goals and an assist. The kid just lit it up. He's an unconventional shooter. He shoots underhand on the run, changes planes. I mean, the kid's fun to watch. Nothing against Peter Baum. I love him too. They're both going to help out the Ohio Machine, but I think Sam Bradman is the biggest addition for Major League Lacrosse this year.
Okay, how much of that has to go into your like character electrifying rankings that I saw? I mean, I know Peter Baum's not flashy, but I mean he really came out of his own out of Oregon last year, or 2 years ago, I should say. Put himself on the map in Colgate as well. He didn't have quite the same year last year. But I kind of have to poke fun at you. I mean, Sam Bradman, he's kind of got that swag. I've seen him play at War at the Shore tournament, which is like a summer type thing down in South Jersey. And I mean, he's good. He's really, really good. Real shifty, real like great shooter. But I mean, like how much of the electrifying like kind of swag thing comes in?
I mean, I wouldn't say it's that. I mean, I watch all the games. I watch a lot of the LXM Pro Tour, and
Right.
I just think personally, Peter Baum was a great college player, and I think that Sam Bradman's game was just built for Major League Lacrosse. You know, they have a 60-second shot clock. Most of these offenses are built like old Hopkins offenses, where the offense runs through a guy like Rabel, John Rannigan. The offense runs from the top, and I don't know. I think that's just Sam Bradman's game. So
Fair enough. I mean, Alex, I know you and I were both taken aback by that statement, so I know you want a little rebuttal to Joe's comments there.
Well, my thing is, Baum did amazing things while he was in college. I mean, he was a finalist for the Tourathon and everything, and he was the first overall pick for the MLL. And Bradman, insane player. I've seen videos on YouTube and everything else of him just ripping shots from way outside, underhand, and picking corners as he chooses. And I think Bradman will end up doing better. I agree with Joe. I'm a little surprised that he went that way, being that Baum was the D1 guy and everything. He was a finalist and everything. I think Bradman will probably end up coming out on top at least between the two of them, because Bradman, he's got that swag. Yeah, like you said, he's got the swag and he's got the style of game that's gonna put him on SportsCenter. I mean,
Right.
he's gonna probably be on SportsCenter every a couple times in the summer, which, like we were saying earlier, that's gonna help the expansion talks.
yep,
Yeah, definitely.
big time.
Yeah. So I mean, with the LXM Pro Tour, I mean, our last kind of note on this whole entire thing, with all these players, I mean, we just talked really extensively, I should say, about Sam Bradman. We think he would be the best fit to go to Ohio. I mean, we don't know. We're not the GM of how they think. But guys, who else would be a good fit? I mean, you got to keep in mind that these teams are pretty darn close to the 40-man roster limit. I don't know how many guys they can really bring in each. I mean, I would assume either they cut someone right now, which I don't know if they can still do, for these LXM guys. I mean, I don't really know what would happen. So who do you think the best guys are from the LXM Pro Tour that could make a really big impact here? I mean, I guess, Alex, you can go first.
Well, for me, my number one guy from the LXM Tour for this little draft that they're going to do is actually Kyle Harrison. For me, I mean, he's an older guy, yeah. He's kind of he's still got the old style of lacrosse in him, but I mean, the guy just made the U.S. team that's going to be playing at the World Championships. I mean, he's he's mid to late 30s, and he's still taking guys to town a lot of the time. I think for a team like Ohio, or even a team like Charlotte, I mean, it would help them because he adds a aspect of veteranism and leadership that kind of seems that they might be looking for, because both teams are so young.
Joe, what about you? I mean, I think Kyle Harrison's a good choice. I think there are plenty of others, though.
Yeah, I think it's almost obvious that the top three picks, clear cut, it's got to be Harrison. He's a veteran. He made Team USA, like Alex said. It's got to be Bradman, and then Shamel Bratton. I'm hoping. I mean, Cannons have third pick, finished sixth. They get third pick. I'm hoping we can pick back up Shamel Bratton, who we drafted a few years back, and he kind of just left us hanging for the tour. So I'm hoping we can get him. And I got a couple of sleepers, like you mentioned, my trade value column. At 47 and 46, I had Brandon Court and Brendan Porter. Brandon Court, like Baum, went to Colgate. kid can really play. Yeah, I mean, he hasn't played against MLL level talent in a while, so we'll see if he's rusty this summer. But look out for Brendan Porter too. That kid can play. He's huge. He's huge. He's fast. He's always covering the Team SCX midfielders, Harrison and Bradman, like we were talking about. And he's a short stick defensive midfielder. I think he can make a big impact for an MLL team.
What do you guys think? All right, I'm a Maryland homer. I'm going to admit it for all our fans. I'm a big Maryland guy. The Ritz brothers both play on the LXM Pro Tour. All right, one of them was the best. I think it was Max. Xander was like pretty solid. What do you think about them? And what do you think about the Brattons? Obviously, Joe, you just said, you wish Shamel would be on the team. Ramel's not bad either. I mean, Duke can play. Which siblings or twins would be better in the MLL or more likely to be drafted? Joe, sound off.
Oh, I'm going with the Bryans. I already said I want Shamel on the Cannons, and I think Ramel is an awesome player too. Ramel plays a lot more defense than Shamel does, and that's huge. That's super valuable to these Major League Lacrosse teams. You see teams like Chesapeake and Denver, they've kind of built the model on how to win, and it really starts at the midfield, offensively and defensively. They got guys who can push the ball in transition, create one-on-one mismatches, and a guy like Ramel can really do that. So I'm sorry, man, but give me the Bryans.
That's all good. I might just mute you like Tony Reale and just like mute you. So I mean, if no one hears you and what you're saying, or if you're talking, nothing's coming out. It's not my fault. It's all yours. Alex, what about you?
Unfortunately, I'm a Maryland guy myself too. But
Attaboy. Let's go.
I got to go with the Brattons. The Ritzes, they're good. They're great. They are. But I mean, the Brattons, with the way that the MLL is set up right now, I think it helps teams better to get a duo like the Brattons. I mean, especially if you can get both of them to come. I mean, if you can draft both of them, I have a feeling that's the only way that a team's going to get them is if they get both of them. But I mean, it's got to be the Brattons at that point. It really does.
All right, I'll admit I'm on board with you guys. I would say the Brattons. I mean, part of me is just you watch lacrosse and they're both great players. The Ritz brothers were kind of under the radar, but also there's so much talent at attack that I don't know if these guys will come in and really make that big of an impact. In midfield, a lot less talent, and plus is a lot more valuable of both guys. I mean, like Joe said, Shamel, he can play, or Ramel, right? Ramel can go offense and defense.
Yeah.
Shamel, more offense than defense. Both guys are kind of interchangeable. One name I just want to get real quick is Benson Irwin. What do you guys think of him? I think he could be a really good defensive midfielder for somebody.
Yeah, he is a really good defensive midfielder, and he does bring the veteran presence and the championship presence. I'm not sure. I don't want to speak incorrectly here, but I'm pretty sure he won either 1 or 2 titles with Hopkins. So obviously that's valuable to a team, any team looking to win. Really, any MLL team right now has a shot at it. So any team would like to pick him up.
Yeah. What about you, Alex? Before we get to our last topic in terms of the MLL stuff.
Irwin, I think great player. If I'm a GM and have a little bit of a weaker defensive midfield, I'm taking him. Hands down, I'll take him. I have a feeling he probably won't get taken till I think they're doing 2 or 3 rounds. They're doing 3-4 rounds maybe even, and I think I'd probably take him in that 3rd or 4th round ish. So he's a great player. He's a class act, but when he's a defensive midfielder, and that's not necessarily what teams most look for at this point, at least.
Yeah.
He's worth bringing to camp.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I think that's a smart move. I mean, they'll place more of it on offense for whatever reason. I think early on. Um, I forgot to mention, but you guys can tweet at us. I'm at Goldberg. You can tweet at Joe Keegan at Joe Keegs 2 E's I should say, and he has a fat man in his picture, so that's comedy in its own. In a thong, by the way, which is interesting. So
It's a
cool.
Southern Comfort commercial. Whatever's comfortable.
And you can tweet at Alex Urquhart 13, and the way you spell his last name, Urquhart. So if you want to tweet at us and tell us we're wrong, which we're not, we're all awesome and we're all really good at our job. So if you tweet at us that we're wrong, I mean, we're probably just gonna ignore you. So it's cool. Anyway, we'll go with a little bit of a lightning round here with some of the college talk. I mean, the real quick topic we can get to, because I mean, this is a personal thing for me, just in terms of gay athletes. All right, Michael Sam came out in football. I did an interview with college lacrosse on a Kenyan lacrosse player that's D3 lacrosse. Holden Richards came out. He actually came out last summer, but the story didn't break until a couple weeks ago. I don't see it as a big deal at all. I mean, personally, you come out as gay, you come out as gay. Who cares? It's not like you're branded for something. If you show up on game day, I don't care what you do. I don't care what you do in your life. Just show up on game day, work hard, and practice. I mean, you guys both have lacrosse backgrounds, and I mean, what did you guys think of? I mean, would you guys have a problem playing with? Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't have a problem, but what are your thoughts about playing with? I guess your expectations playing with a gay player. I mean, does it really matter to you that this was even announced? I mean, is it a big deal?
Hey, Joe, after you. I mean,
All right, I'll go first. I'll take this. No, it's not a big deal. And first, I gotta say, good for Holden Richards. That is great for him to come out because even though it shouldn't be a big deal, unfortunately it is, and that's tough. So props to him for that and handling it the way he did. And I would hope, maybe I'm optimistic, but I would hope that if another player in the lacrosse community was struggling with a decision like his, that they would feel comfortable. Because, I mean, there are like a couple of reasons why people would care, right? Like a teammate would, a lot of guys would maybe assume that a gay teammate would be attracted to them, but I think Holden Richards made the point in an article I read that that's not the case. Like just because he's a gay man doesn't mean he's attracted to every other man on the team. So once they got past that, he said things were cool. And another reason you might be mad is if you belong to the Westboro Baptist Church. I mean, unless you have like crazy old school beliefs. You guys probably don't listen, but Toucher and Rich, they're Boston sports radio morning hosts, and they prank phone called this lady from Topeka, Kansas, and she went off for probably 5 or 6 minutes talking about what Heath Ledger was doing in some deep dark hell for his role in Brokeback Mountain, and they had a little fun with her. I'll tweet out the links at my account at Joe Keegs. I'll tweet out the audio links to that clip because they poked fun at her, and rightfully so, because, I mean, people like that are crazy. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they really are. Alex, how about you before we get back to some more lacrosse?
I have no problem. Personally, I have no problem with it. The kids I coach, the guys that I've played with, and the people that I know around, especially in the lacrosse community, nobody cares really that they're gay, that someone is gay or not. Holden Rich, great job, man. You're awesome. Coming out, you're 95% of the time you're helping somebody else come to terms with what they want to do with that kind of a situation. And I mean, it's same with Joe. I mean, you show up on game day for the most part. You show up to practice every day, do all this stuff, go home. Who you want to spend your time with, that's up to you. So I, you know, I have no problem with it. I don't know of really anybody that has that big of a problem with gay athletes in general. So,
Yeah, I mean I mean I 100% agree with you. I mean it shouldn't like honestly like my interview like isn't a big deal. I feel like I mean it's kind of contradictory what I tweeted out like a couple like when the news broke. It's like it's sad that this is still a big story that someone comes out as gay and the media just is like vultures just comes around and is like oh I mean it's great for him to come out because obviously he's gonna have some backlash, and there are going to be guys who are like, oh, I'm fearful of this guy like coming into the shower with me, and he's going to like stalk me out and have like excuse my language, but he's going to have like a boner coming in. Like, no, he's not going to do that. He's going to shower and whatever. It's just a shame that it comes to a big deal, and we even have to talk about it honestly. So go. I know there's no easy way to transition from that. But let's go to college lacrosse because there's a lot of exciting action going on in college lacrosse. The first of which is Virginia. Virginia's 3-0 right now, 3 one-goal games this season. They could easily be 0-3. Does the magic end at all? And if it doesn't, what are the problems they really need to fix? Alex, go first. I mean, I'm just flabbergasted by how Virginia keeps getting away with it.
I personally, I think actually it's a good thing for them. I think it actually shows that they are one of the better teams in the country right now. I personally think Dom Sarja is probably the best coach alive right now. And I think the one-goal games, I don't know if it will end. I'd be happy if they won every single game by 1 goal. I mean, it's how it goes sometimes. I mean, sometimes you get a team on a good night or not, and the 1-goal games, I mean, across the NCAA right now, it's insane. So I don't think the Magic will end. They'll keep going.
Yeah.
So I mean, do you see them playing better? Like coming out with big leads.
Well, go Alex, go.
I'd actually done a preview of their season right before they start their first game, and looking back at the seasons that they've had before, after they have a down year, which last year for Virginia that was a down year,
right?
And they come back. The last time they did it, they went on, I think it was 7 seasons with a winning record, a national championship, 3 Final Four appearances. I mean, it could be another start to that. A little early to tell, but I think this year with that they're going to be pretty good. I don't know about huge leads, but I have a feeling they're going to be in the hunt for championship this year.
Joe, do you agree with him?
I gotta disagree about the Magic continuing. If you guys caught the basketball game last night, Mater BC stopped a little bit of Magic last night at the Carrier Dome. So
the only thing BC's got going for it.
In basketball. I don't know if you watch much college hockey, but they're not doing too bad there.
I mean, I'm sorry, Joe, but not many people watch college hockey. I mean, they're always good at college hockey.
Hey, Alex is from Minnesota. So you're in the minority right now.
Yeah, I mean,
but
am I in the minority? Because not even the media likes hockey. So,
yeah, college hockey is great.
Yeah.
You owe Butchergrass an apology for that, but no. Back to Virginia. The Magic does end, and I'll tell you when it ends. March 1st against Syracuse. As soon as ACC play begins, I mean, Virginia, they got a 1-goal win against Richmond, a 1-goal win against Drexel. They're about to play a Notre Dame team that just steamrolled Jacksonville. This Syracuse team, Duke, UNC, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. The Magic, it's going to end very soon.
Yeah, but the thing about it is that they've had big leads in all 3 games and have just actually I don't know about Drexel, but Richmond and Loyola, they had really big leads and then just let them go. So, I mean, is part of it their youth? I mean, they do have a freshman goalie, but, they do have talented seniors around him and on the offense too.
I this is the ACC does. I mean, it poses the question that can a team out of the ACC actually win or go undefeated during an ACC schedule there? That's a little up in the air for me, but Virginia should be able. I mean, I see only maybe one or two games that they actually should lose. One of them is Syracuse. I think the other one might be UNC. Personally, I don't think watching the Jacksonville game with Duke, I don't think Duke actually is that good this year compared to how they have been the last couple of years. Notre Dame, they steamrolled Jacksonville. No offense, it's Jacksonville. I'm sorry to say, guys that are watching from the Florida State, but I mean, I'm sorry, guys. There's a difference in level there that you can't really take into account.
Yeah, Joe, what about you? I mean, what have you, I guess, I don't know. I mean, do you think it's the youth that's really hurting them?
That's hurting Virginia?
Yeah, I mean, they have these big leads, and then they pull it out of, like, it seems like a hat somewhere, pull a rabbit out of a hat like a magician, and, they've been lucky.
Yeah.
I guess that's all I could say about it.
I mean, sometimes you have to be a little lucky. So I don't mean to go off on them. I don't think they're one of the top teams in the ACC, but that's not a bad thing. I mean, they've had luck on their side. It takes a certain type of team that can pull out 1-goal wins like that. So we'll see. They'll be a competitive team come May.
Yeah. So we're talking about a team that has really pulled out 1-goal games in Virginia. Let's flip it around and go to Ohio State, who has lost 2 overtime games. The first is excusable in Johns Hopkins. The second against UMass, which UMass I feel is like a gritty team. They could surprise some people, but they did lose 2 of their best offense players, Will Manny and I forget Smith's first name, but Smith as well. I mean, is Ohio State overrated or is it just bad luck?
I'm gonna say neither on that. I'm gonna say they're an accurately rated team that has just lost 2 close games against 2 good teams. Ohio State's the kind of team that, most teams aren't clicking right now like they will be in May. It's early in the season. That's just how it goes. But Ohio State's the team that's going to have some low-scoring games. They slow down the game. They sit back in a zone at times. Their games are going to be close. They're going to be low-scoring. And, sometimes you just don't pull those types of game out. And we'll see if they can get a little bit of Virginia's magic once May rolls around so they can start winning them when it counts.
Yeah, that'd be good. What about you from the Midwest, Alex? I know you're not far. You're not. You're kind of from Ohio, but you got to have a pulse a little bit, right?
Yeah, the Ohio State 2 games that they've lost so far. I mean, Johns Hopkins, that game was insane. I mean, first off, it's Johns Hopkins and Ohio State, 2 teams that have 2 of the longest standing pedigrees in college lacrosse right now. Penn State's another one. All 3 of them are now going to be in a Big Ten conference come 2015. So, that added a whole nother level to that game. The UMass game, Joe, you've got the better, touch on the UMass team, but not a bad team. These are 2 great teams that they ended up playing first 2 games of the season. And they lost in overtime. They 1 goal in both overtime losses. How do you fight that? I think that Ohio State team, going through the adversity in February will help them in May. I mean, it's going to. And Jesse King can carry that team like Shuss did last year. So, I mean, it could just be late blooming. It could be an indication of some worse things to come, possibly. I mean, I think they scheduled two tough teams, a really heavy early season schedule. So I think they're right where they should be right about now.
So it's not time to panic in Columbus, I guess you guys are saying, right?
Not yet.
All right.
No, they don't have an ACC schedule coming up, so they have time.
I don't know. I like King. I'm just a little wary on the offense. I mean, Turner did turn it on, no pun intended there, but he did turn it on against UMass, and their offense kind of got out of a little funk. So it'll be interesting to see. Speaking of the ACC, Syracuse, North Carolina, Duke, Maryland hold 4 of the best offenses in the nation. Albany joins them even after one game after the epic game, overtime thriller against Syracuse. Out of those 5 teams, which team's offense do you buy? Which team's offense do you sell?
I can't buy all of them, can I? No, I think.
I think we all wish, but
yeah. I think the offenses you got to buy are probably. I mean, Albany. I mean, Thompson's. Like we said earlier. I mean, you can't beat that trio at all. Syracuse. I think they have a chip on their shoulder from last year. I think. I don't know if I would buy or sell that offense yet. I think they've. I mean, other than Albany, they really haven't been tested too hard, I think. Maryland, I got to go with my heart. I got to buy that offense. They play a different way than everybody else, and it works for them. Duke, after seeing the Jacksonville game, which I watched on ESPN3, I mean, I don't know. I mean, the Jacksonville showed them for the first half at least that they're not as good as they think they are. But I'd probably sell Duke. UNC, I don't know if I want to sell or buy them either way. I mean, that's a tough one for me. So,
Joe, what about you? Because 2 of the top offenses that we mentioned right here are going to face off, Syracuse and Maryland, in the Dome this weekend. So, I mean, what do you think about that game? Is Syracuse and I mean Maryland's got an awesome defense. That's their strong suit right now.
Yeah, I love Cuse, but I'm not so sure. I'm not selling them. I'm not selling any of these 5 offenses, but I'm not buying Syracuse yet because we'll see what Albany's defense looks like against other competition. But Syracuse won 24 of 36 faceoffs against Albany. Maybe it's different this year, but they're not usually that good. And I don't think they will be that good against Maryland. So if they're not getting as many possessions, they're not going to put up as many goals. We'll see what happens when they're winning 40-45% of draws. But out of these 5, for me, Albany is the best defense. Like I said, they had 16 goals against the Syracuse defense, which I think is very good. And that was only on 12 face-off wins. So I'll be driving out to UMass in 2 weeks to see the Great Danes, and I'm looking forward to that.
Syracuse kind of flipped there, and after last year not being able to win 1 face-off, they go into Albany and win, what was it, say, close to 80% of the face-offs, actually. I mean, I don't know what they did, but
yeah, we'll see.
I think Albany. I did a preview. Yeah, I mean, if I remember correctly, I think Albany lost their face-off guy, and then I mean their defense is just atrocious. I don't know what's going on there, but their offense obviously has to carry them. And then Maryland, I would say from a personal standpoint, as much as a fan I am of them, they've really played nobody. And Shannon Chuck's going to have to carry that offense from midfield. I know Rambo's special. He is special, and he's put up points. But I'm very interested to see how the Baby Turtles go up on a big road test into Syracuse. I think that's going to be speaking volumes to where this Maryland season will go, because they were picked to finish last in the ACC. Granted, the ACC is stacked, but they're going from arguably maybe the best team last year, you could argue, to not even making the tournament this year and being the worst in the ACC. So I think that's something to watch out for. And speaking of all these close games that we've talked about, 4 overtime games last week. Navy versus Georgetown, Ohio State UMass, Lehigh versus Villanova, Loyola Penn State all went to overtime last weekend. And there were like 3 or 4 the week before. And there was a lot of one-goal games before that. So, guys, what's the deal here? Is this teams playing too early into preseason? I mean, granted, their preseason is kind of like a month, and that's why we see these teams playing. But is it a preseason thing? Is it a weather thing? With like snow melting around it, it'll screw up with your sticks, and obviously it's harder to run in the cold and everything. I mean, what do you guys think about this? What is there really any rhyme or reason? Is it just good lacrosse and hey, let's enjoy it while it lasts?
I don't know what to think, and I wish I could enjoy it while it lasts. But unfortunately, this Sunday I was watching a 15-8 Hopkins versus Towson game on tape delay on ESPNU.
Yeah.
So as soon as they start showing those great games, man, then I'll have a take on this. But for now, I'm stuck hearing the Hopkins fight song over and over and over again.
Yeah, what an obnoxious song, by the way.
Yeah.
I went to the fall ball game, and basically it's like they like score, and then they announce how many goals they have, and then they go, we want more. It's kind of it's so obnoxious.
Yeah, that's what BC football does too, but they don't really have many chances to say we want more. So. I wish they played that song a little more.
Andre Williams, man.
Yeah.
What about you, Alex? I mean, what do you attribute it to? No, I mean, you got some lacrosse in the cold, North Dakota State over there. I mean, that's where you played your MCLA game. So I mean, what do you think about this?
For me, I mean, I don't think the weather's that much of a factor for them at this point. I mean, they're at the Division I college level. They're gonna play lacrosse in rain, sleet, snow, hurricanes, whatever. So I don't know if it's so much the weather as it is that it's relatively early, and guys are still trying to feel out each other on their own teams and figure out how do I play with this guy. I mean, I only spent the fall really on a lacrosse field with him, and then some time in the gym over winter, through the winter. So I think it's more that it's just early, and guys just need to get used to each other, and we should enjoy it, and and not complain that, like in the Georgetown Navy game with the whole timer on situation stuff. I mean, we just need to enjoy the lacrosse as it is. I mean, 1-goal games, overtime games, and all that stuff. I mean, if it's close, it's great. That's what we want for a game. We don't want to see the Loyola
Housing game
where they put up 20 goals and cruise through a fourth quarter. I personally would rather see an overtime game than a Loyola beating Towson 20-4. So
yeah. I mean, like you said, we should enjoy it, right? That's what we want to see in sports. We want to see a close game come down to the wire, and if it goes overtime, awesome. I tweeted out, it was like, wow, thanks, ESPN for wasting your time and efforts putting on women's basketball when you just miss 3 or 4 overtime games in lacrosse.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Hurting the women's basketball. Wow. We're just slamming everybody.
Come on, man. Like, how many upsets you see in women's basketball? Or women's sports in general? You never really see upsets. Like, okay, last year Louisville beat Baylor, and, like, you see them from time to time, but you don't see as many upsets as you do in men's sports. Like, all right, I'm going to sound a little sexist, whatever. But, like, if you think about it, like, all right, you just put on women's basketball, which no one's going to watch for the most part except, like, girls who are obviously interested in seeing the teams they may play for and, like, some of their, like, pals that they play with. But, like, at the end of the day, you had 5 overtime games last week for lacrosse. Like, why don't you put 1 or 2 of those on? I mean, you got, like, a Canisius Niagara women's basketball game on. Who's that appealing to?
Whoa.
Hey, women's basketball, WNBA is a niche sport, just like MLL. We gotta stand by them.
We're in the same boat.
Keep taking down Major League Baseball. What?
Yes.
Whoa,
We don't need all this anger towards the women's sports. I can live with the women's sports.
WNBA is not a niche sport. They're in with the NBA. They have the second biggest, largest, franchise, or not franchise, but like organization basically steering it. What does the MLL have? It has its own startup.
Well, I want to go back to there are no upsets in women's sports.
Yeah, that might just be because you don't really watch the pregame shows and know who the favorite is.
Exactly. But the University of Minnesota women's hockey team had a streak of 60, 70 some odd games, and they lost to North Dakota 3 weeks ago. Hey, tell me there's an upset.
50 some odd games. Don't you hear that?
I missed that
won
game.
86 games in a row.
Yeah, and then they lost to North Dakota.
Yeah, like you're telling me that you'd rather not see guys like go at it like BC. Okay, would you rather have seen Syracuse go on a 70-game win streak right now?
For what sport?
Well, I mean, for
basketball.
For basketball. Like let's say, okay, Joe didn't get to see the BC thing. Like in women's sports, like Syracuse, I don't know if Syracuse is better than Boston College, but you got a 70-game win streak over them. They haven't won in 3-4 years against them probably. And Syracuse or Boston College, there's a game that Boston College hasn't won too much against Syracuse, and you get an upset in guys. So I mean that's my thought.
I got nothing against women's sports.
I love women's sports. Women's sports makes the world go around, really.
Yeah.
I'm guessing you didn't watch the game this morning then?
What's up?
I'm guessing you didn't watch the game this morning, USA Canada?
Yeah,
USA should have won and then choked it away.
I'm waiting till tomorrow and waiting till we see who gets to keep Bieber.
Payback tomorrow.
Yeah. All right. That's all we got. I mean, I had a blast, with you guys on our first show. We'll do it again next Thursday. It'll be fun. We'll take shots at women again, or at least I will, because apparently now I'm going to be labeled as a sexist, so that's cool. And maybe I'll take some shots at some Canadians too, but then I'll just be more angst towards me, right, Alex?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, of course. So
I mean, everybody calls Minnesota Little Canada, anyways. I mean.
Yeah, that's essentially what you are, right?
Yeah, a few years ago, they equated Ryan Hurley, who was playing at Cornell, as being from Minnesota. He's pretty much Canadian, and so I think everybody thinks we're Canadian anyways, so we'll take it.
Yeah, it's like Canadian by association. You just get it, right? All right, guys, so it's been a great first show. For all our viewers, thank you for watching us. Hopefully you don't take my comments too seriously. I actually, do like women. And, they're an important part of our community. I don't mean to bash them or the Canadians or anything like that. It's just jabbing fun. As always, you can tweet at us at Goldberg, at Joe Keegs, at Alex Urquhart 13. Let us know how you like the show, any of that stuff. Boys, have a good night. It was a pleasure and a good first show.
Have a good night. We'll see you next